Back in the fall, I got a call from one of my friends to come around the corner to Rollins Cross. When I got there, there was a lady who had run out of gas, and she had everything that she owned packed into her car, and she was sitting there with her cat. And she had had to leave her house that evening, and because of various circumstances that she was involved in, she wasn't able to go to any of the shelters that were in town. And through that encounter, I really became aware in a way that I hadn't ever before of homelessness and how a lot of people do not have access to that basic human necessity of having shelter. And it really broke my heart, and I began to wonder what was being done in the city to remedy that and to provide shelter for people, and if there was any way that I could help.
Since we've become a half province, that's good for many people. It's good for our province, but for many of the young people who really don't have anything, or who are on income support, or any kind of public assistance, it makes life even more difficult for them because it drives our vacancy rate down. It drives our rent prices up. And also the cost of food, the cost of transportation, all those things. But there's not an increase in money for young people to live. And so we see an increased use of food banks, and we see homelessness increase for that reason. We're becoming more and more like bigger centers and bigger cities because we are seeing some people who are on the side of the road and the street who are kind of looking for money and that kind of thing. But I would have to say that it's more hidden here than it is in bigger centres. Often here in Newfoundland, well, our weather is so cold that people wouldn't last very long on the street. We have people who kind of land in our shelters. We have people who are sleeping on their friend's couch until they can't stay there anymore, then they go to someone else's couch. And it's very hidden in our city. We don't use the word homelessness as much as we do street entrenched, because at any given time, lots of our young people who've come to us have been without a place to be or a place to live. And oftentimes that, any one young person can find themselves without housing for 10 or 20 or more times. Most people don't really understand the fact that you give someone a place to live and you give them money, why can't they make it? And why can't they maintain that? But for every young person who finds themselves at a housing again and again and again, generally there's complexities involved. It's not always a choice when there's a mental illness as well, or when there's other complexities that come into play. But then there are no easy solutions. Mental health is a big problem that some young people, it's what causes them to be displaced. Sometimes behavior comes into play. Sometimes at the age of 16, it's just really difficult to maintain any type of housing on your own, and without a history of trauma or a history of not having anyone to support you growing up. are several young people who come into Choices, usually to get lunch during the day, who come with their guitars or whatever instrument, but it's usually a guitar, and they sit around, and sometimes when people start playing, other young people will join in and they'll start to sing, and it kind of brings everybody around in a kind of a community-like setting, and it's a really nice atmosphere to walk into. It breaks down lots of barriers. We've had people who we've worked with who we just don't know what to do. You know, there are no magic answers, and it's funny because when we speak to other people in other agencies across Canada, that's not unique to us. That's something that they see as well. And, you know, it comes back to that complex service needs for people, and sometimes there are no answers. When someone doesn't have a job, or when someone doesn't have a home, oftentimes as human beings we make assumptions about the reasons for that. And I think we need to step back a little bit and not make assumptions as much as we need to just have some compassion, you know? And I think that compassion needs to come from a place that's not conditional. And we really need to understand that, you know, sometimes people are just having a hard time. Many people worry that when they give money to people who are on the street, they worry about what they're going to spend the money on. You know, are they going to spend it on drugs or alcohol or something that's not healthy or whatever? And I guess our perspective on that is, instead of worrying about what they're going to spend their money on, I think it would be our message to say that, you know, it's more important to focus on the compassion, to give that money to people as a small offering that might help them get through the day. And that's more important than what they're going to spend the money on. There's lots of things that many of us would buy or spend our money on that I'm sure not everyone would approve of. So I think if we take the judgment out of that offering or that gift, we give that gift with more compassion, I think it makes a big difference.